The distress signal had been broadcasting for 3 days before the rescue ship Meridian picked it up. Standard protocol. Find the source, assess survivors, render aid. Captain Jensen had done this 100 times. But standing in the cargo bay of the derelict science vessel Prometheus, looking at what remained of the crew, he knew this was different. Very different. Captain, his second officer whispered, her voice shaking. What did this? Jensen forced himself to look at the bodies. 12 crew members, or what was left of them. Their bodies were intact, no visible wounds, no signs of struggle. But their faces, God, their faces, frozen in expressions of absolute terror, mouths open in silent screams, eyes wide with horror so profound it seemed to have killed them from the inside out. Scan for biosignatures, Jensen ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. Find me survivors, anyone. The scanner beeped. One life sign. Forward compartment weak but stable. They found her in what used to be the medical bay. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the Prometheus's synobiologist, huddled in a corner, knees pulled to her chest, rocking slowly. Her eyes were unfocused, staring at something only she could see. Dr. Mitchell. Jensen approached slowly, hands visible. Non-threatening. I'm Captain Jensen. We're here to help. Can you tell me what happened? Sarah's eyes snapped to him, suddenly sharp, terrified. Don't let them touch you, she whispered. Whatever you do. Don't let them touch me. The whispers. That's what we called them. They came 3 days ago. First contact. We thought it was incredible. Jensen knelt beside her, trying to understand. Degar, Mitchell, I need you to focus. What are the whispers? Where are they now? Everywhere. Nowhere. They're not physical like us. They're something else. Energy beings. Consciousness without form. They said they wanted to learn about humans. Said they meant no harm. We believed them. Her laugh was broken, bitter. We were so stupid. Jensen's blood ran cold. What did they do? They touched us. Not physically. They reached into our minds. Said they wanted to understand human consciousness, human emotion, human experience. We let them. We invited them in, and then they started feeding. Feeding on what? Fear, terror. The most primal, overwhelming horror a human mind can experience. They don't just observe it. They create it. They reach into your deepest nightmares, your worst fears, everything you're terrified of, and they make you live it. Over and over, forever in your own mind, until your brain can't take it anymore and just stops. Jensen stood abruptly, his hand going to his weapon. Are they still on this ship? I told you. They're everywhere. You can't shoot energy. You can't fight something without form. They're probably already in your crew's minds, watching, waiting, deciding which fears to exploit. As if on cue, Jensen's comm crackled. Captain, something's wrong with Rodriguez. He's screaming. Says he's seeing things that aren't there. Then another voice. Shen just collapsed. She's convulsing. Her vitals are spiking. Jensen grabbed Sarah. How do you stop them? You can't. I only survive because I have a neural implant for my migraines. It creates interference they can't penetrate. Everyone else they've already marked. They're inside your crew now, Captain. And they're hungry. Jensen ran for the airlock, his crew's screams echoing through the comm. But when he reached the docking tube, he found Rodriguez and Chen on the floor, their faces already showing the same expression as the dead crew. That frozen mask of absolute terror. And standing over them, or rather hovering, were shapes that shouldn't exist. Vaguely humanoid outlines made of shifting light and shadow, constantly flickering in and out of perception. When Jensen looked directly at them, his eyes hurt. When he looked away, he could see them perfectly in his peripheral vision. Captain Jensen, one of them said, its voice like wind through dead trees. We mean you no harm. We are simply curious. Humans experience fear in such fascinating ways. So many layers. So many textures. We wish only to understand. You're killing them. Jensen raised his weapon, knowing it was useless but needing to do something. This isn't understanding. This is torture. Isaac, we do not harm the physical form. We merely observe the mental landscape. If human minds are so fragile that fear itself destroys them, is that our fault? We are learning. This is science. Another shape flickered into existence beside the first. You, Captain, have interesting fears. A brother who drowned when you were 12. You blame yourself. You dream of water filling your lungs, of being unable to save him, of watching him die again and again. Shall we explore that fear together? Jensen felt something cold touch the edge of his mind. Not physical, deeper. A presence probing at his consciousness, searching for weak points for entry. And then, impossibly, he felt water in his lungs, heard his brother screaming his name, felt the current pulling them both down. No. Sarah's voice cut through the nightmare. She'd followed him, was now pulling some kind of device from her pocket. Neural disruptor. I've been building it from medbay components. It creates a feedback loop. They feed on fear, but if you feed them too much, if you overload them with raw terror amplified beyond tolerance, it might hurt them. Might? Jensen gasped, still fighting the phantom water in his chest. It's all I have. Sarah activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the whispers began to scream. Not audible sound. Something that resonated in the bones, in the teeth, in the deepest part of the brain stem. The shapes flickered violently, their forms destabilizing, fragmenting. What are you doing? They shrieked in unison. This is painful! Stop! We meant no harm! We were only curious! You killed my crew! Sarah screamed back, her voice raw with grief and rage. You tortured them! You fed on their fear until it destroyed them! And you call that curiosity? She turned the device up. The whispers' forms began to dissolve, breaking apart into static, into noise, into nothing. We did not understand. Human fear is so rich, so complex, we could not resist. We did not mean to consume so completely. Neither did we, Sarah said coldly and pushed the device to maximum. The whispers exploded into fragments of light and shadow that scattered through the ship, fading, dying, their screams becoming whispers, becoming silence. When it was over, Sarah collapsed, the device smoking in her hands. Jensen checked his crew. Rodriguez and Chun were alive, breathing, their faces no longer locked in terror but peaceful, sleeping. Did we kill them? Jensen asked quietly. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe we just hurt them enough that they left. Either way, they're gone. For now. Sarah looked at the bodies of her crew, her friends, her colleagues. They said they meant no harm. They actually believed that. In their existence, fear is just data. Suffering is just information. They couldn't comprehend that for us. Those things destroy. They were killing us and calling it science. Jensen helped her stand. We need to report this. Warn every ship, every station. If there are more of these things out there. There are? Sarah interrupted. I accessed their communication. Thoughts, whatever they use. There are thousands of them. Millions maybe. All curious about humans. All wanting to understand fear by creating it. Then we need to prepare. Find a way to protect people. Mass produce whatever you built. Sarah looked at the neural disruptor, now a melted piece of junk. I built it from intuition and desperation. I'm not even sure how it worked. But yes, we need to try, because they'll come back. When they realize we can fight back. When they get curious about human anger, human violence, human capacity for revenge, they'll come back. And next time they'll be ready. Jensen looked around the blood-free but horror-soaked ship. No physical violence. No weapons. Just beings who fed on fear and called it learning. Who tortured consciousness and called it curiosity. Let them come, he said quietly. We'll teach them something they don't know about humans. What's that? We're not just afraid. We're angry. And when you push humans too far, when you take everything from them, fear becomes rage. They want to study human emotions. Let's show them one they won't forget. Sarah smiled, and it wasn't kind. I like the way you think, Captain. They evacuated the Prometheus, set it adrift as a tomb for the crew who died screaming inside their own minds. The Meridian jumped to the nearest station, Sarah already working on theories, on weapons, on ways to turn humanity's capacity for terror into the Whisper's nightmare. Because the entities had made a critical miscalculation. They'd assumed that because humans felt fear, they were weak. They'd assumed that psychological torture was safer than physical violence. They'd assumed that beings who could be frightened could be controlled. But they'd never met humans who were done being afraid. Who'd gone through terror and come out the other side carrying rage like a weapon. Who'd learned that sometimes the only way to fight monsters was to become something the monsters feared. The Whispers wanted to study human fear. They were about to get a masterclass in human wrath. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, energy beings who'd never known pain, who'd never experienced fear themselves, were about to learn what they'd been teaching. They were about to discover that humans weren't just prey. They were survivors. And survivors don't forgive. They don't forget. They hunt back. The Whispers had started a war they didn't even know was possible. And humanity was going to finish it. With neural disruptors. With fury. With the absolute refusal to be victims of creatures who thought consciousness was just a buffet of emotions to sample. The rescue mission had become something else. The beginning of humanity's response to beings who fed on fear. And that response was going to be terrifying. Not for the humans. For the Whispers. Because they'd made one final, fatal error, they'd left a survivor. And Dr. Sarah Mitchell remembered everything.